Hello and thanks for joining us again this week on the League of Ireland Score podcast at OTB. What a week it's been. Big Mick and Little Mick watched Shamrock Rovers break their gypsy curse at Tallaght Stadium. Waterford came out fighting and the Rebels are sucked into a relegation battle. In the First Division, the Drogs and the Town crank up the pressure in the promotion race as the champagne is put on ice at Tolka Park, thanks to those pesky seagulls swooping in to nick points from shells. I'm Stephen Doyle and I'm here with Enda Coll, Jake O'Donnell and Jamie Moore. How you doing, lads?
Steve, how are you?
All good, all good. Well, listen, we'll start off with the big game of the week. It was Shamrock Rovers 1, Bohemians 0. The prodigal son, Graham Burke, returning. Of course, he'd been there for a few games, but getting the winner in that match and also heading a certain equaliser off the line as well. Roberto Lopez, man of the match for Shamrock Rovers against his old club. That was awarded by Pat Fenlon, who described it as a game of two halves. He was right, Jamie, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. The wind at Tallaght is, when you're in the press box at the back of the stadium, you can't actually feel it because you're basically in a box. But on the pitch you could see when the goalkeepers were trying to kick the ball or even defenders playing passes, the wind was just absolutely killing it. And I was only speaking to a couple of the Rovers players in the mix zone after, and they were just saying how hard it was against the wind for them. And the moment of the match is Sean Kavanagh's cross, and we say this all the time, his left foot is, in my opinion, the best in the country. Jack Byrne's probably the best with a right foot at set pieces. And Graham Burke wouldn't be overly known for headers, but he just got between the two Bow centre-backs. Great header. And you mentioned at the other end, he clears one, if not two, off the line, certain goals for Bows, and is probably the hero. But for Rovers, with all of those, 8-9 games without a win over Bows, you could see at the end, they really wanted to win that game.
I'll go into that in a moment, but I suppose, it's something I did notice, especially in the first half. James Talbot really struggling with his goal kicks to try and get that ball out. He kept holding up mid-air and coming back at him. I did mention, of course, Big Mick at the start there, and that was Mick McCarthy, of course, Republic of Ireland manager. There as well was the President of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins, maybe scouting for Galway United ahead of the FAI Cup quarter-final match. But Jack Byrne, the Shamrock Rovers midfielder, he was hoping to impress Mick McCarthy. He had just been announced that he was in the final 23-man squad for the Euro qualifier against Switzerland and against Bulgaria in the friendly match. Did he impress him?
It's hard to know. If you're going based on his performance as a whole, general performance, it was actually quite good. But if you take a look back at what Mick was saying a few weeks ago about Jack Byrne and the role he wants him to play, he didn't want him to drop back for the ball, didn't want him in that position at all. And in the first half, that's what he did. I don't know whether it might be playing on his mind a bit that Mick McCarthy is at these games and watching him play, and he's trying to do too much. And I think that did play a role in it, because he was getting in behind, he was sitting in the kind of the centre defensive midfielder role, coming back for the ball, dropping deep, and actually taking up Aaron McAnuff's space where he was supposed to be. And all the best things the Shamrock Rovers did happened when Jack Byrne got into the pocket and behind Graham Burke up front. And based on that performance, Mick McCarthy's not going to select him, because he was doing exactly what he told him not to do. He didn't want him playing in that role, and that's the role he played, unfortunately, for himself.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Jake, as well, as Jamie alluded to there, the joy and the relief on the face of Stephen Bradley, the Rovers head coach, after that game. He embraced everybody in the dugout. You could see the South Stand as well was just in raptures. You could see how much that result meant, and which is incredible really for a team like Shamrock Rovers. We all know it was an 8-game hoodoo that they broke, but how much do you think that meant to Bradley?
Yeah, like the line afterwards it was celebrated like it was a cup final win, which is obviously ironic because it was Stephen Bradley's comments in the first place which sort of bigged it up. But yeah, no, it was amazing. Like, I suppose going back to Jack Byrne's performance as well, maybe it just wasn't the game for Jack Byrne, because the way Rovers were playing, like, they were very much holding out for the win in the second half. Like, there wasn't really the room for Jack Byrne to get on the ball and get creative. Like, even with their substitutes, like, they were trying to hold on to what they had and defend, like. And
they brought Greg Bulger in the second half, which that really told you what was happening at that stage. They wanted to shore it up. He came on for, I'm trying to remember now, it was an attacking player he replaced anyway.
For Graham Burke.
Burke, that's right. That could tell you what they were doing. I thought as well, interesting in the game, and you have to hand it to Bows as well. They played poorly in the first half. Trevor Crowley said mid-match on the TV interview that they just weren't at it. They weren't kind of pushing up, pressing Rovers as much, but they did in the second half. I thought Keith Buckley played really well in the second half. I'm trying to think now as well who else stood out for
I thought
for
Rob Cornwall was quite good.
Cornwall was good. He's steady in that defence again.
He's had a hamstring injury for the last couple of years really, and I think every time he plays, he's worried about space behind him because of his hamstring, and I thought he played quite well.
Danny Grant was excellent, I thought, as well.
Danny Grant in the second half.
Yeah.
Particularly in the first half, because I was speaking to our colleague Johnny Ward and Oisín Langan at the game, and down the left wing in the first half where Sean Kavanagh got the cross in, we were actually speaking about it before, that Danny Grant wasn't tracking back enough, and Pender was really struggling at that left wing, and he was leaving far too much room. And that actually, you have to give a bit of credit to the Shamrock Rovers midfielders for that as well, because I was just noticing Danny Grant was getting pulled into the middle, in where those midfielders were going. They were going into that space, and they're leaving that then for Sean Kavanagh, leaving the full left wing for him to run into. So Danny Grant actually struggled in the first half, but the second half he came into his own, got the ball into his feet, and started taking on the Shamrock Rovers defence, which that's what he's best at, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we did have a huge attendance. It was 7,021. I tweeted out afterwards about the fact that there was 1,200 Bows fans, over 5,000 Rovers fans. Immediately, of course, you get the naysayers and the pessimists coming in. Oh, well, it's a one-off game, this, that, the other. And I understand that it is a one-off game, but this is what we should be aspiring to, and I know, every club doesn't have the facilities that Tallaght Stadium presents for Shamrock Rovers, but that is what we should be aspiring to. Get the facilities, get the rivalries going. I'm not saying this is something that we can see in the next 1, 2, 3 seasons. This is the long-term plan should be for the FAI in 10 years, 15 years time. We should have each club having, a 5 to 10,000 seater stadium where we can have these kind of games week in, week out, all over the country.
Yeah, I think it's something that we've seen in recent seasons with Cork and Dundalk, that when they've played each other in either Cork or Dundalk, in Turner's Cross or Oriel, the place has been full. And I think the biggest previous attendance in the league recently was Cork Dundalk a couple of years ago, and there was again 7,000 there at Turner's Cross. We get these attendances for the European games, so we have had them in certain fixtures. I don't think you can expect Rovers against UCD or Finn Harps against Dundalk to attract that many people at the moment, but certainly if we can marquee 4, 6, 8 matches a season where you're going to go, they're the ones where we're going in the good stadiums with the good crowds on TV with all the sponsors around it. You absolutely plug the crap out of it for a month in advance, and you get people there. And I know the other night the stadium was full because they have to keep a certain part of the far stand segregated for security, but could you have got another 500 or 1,000 there? Could you have got some people who maybe wouldn't be League of Ireland fans there? And I guarantee if they went there, they would walk away going, my God, that was good. Even though it wasn't a great game, when the players walk out and the Rovers fans have their flares in green and the Bows fans have their flares in red, and there's a bit of wind and the smoke coming across the pitch at the start of the match, it's an amazing sight to see. It
was like an old Serie A match from the 90s, actually, with all the smoke.
The tifo that Bows had at the start of the game as well.
James
was
Talbot.
Brilliant. It was exactly what you expect from a derby of this sort, and I think it's getting people there in the first place, because if you look at the guy from Germany who came over to the Bows game recently enough, I think it was the Shells game in the Cup, and he was talking about how amazing it was, but I don't think Irish people realise how great these games can be, atmosphere-wise. I know the football's not the best, but atmosphere-wise, you can't beat it on a Friday
definitely.
night.
And even I know from being down in Inchicore as well, Jake, Inchicore is a lovely setting. It's a really nice ground. It's kind of down, it's kind of, I suppose, down below ground level. And when you get a good crowd in Richer as well, it can be a brilliant atmosphere there.
Yeah, no, there's just the only thing about Tallaght really is the crowd is great and all, but the problem with the ground for me, and the facilities are brilliant and unrivaled pretty much for the league, is just the way the wind sort of ruins the game sometimes. It's because that fourth stand isn't there behind the other goal. It just goes through it like a bit of a tunnel, and it can sort of take away from the quality of the game, where if you don't have the wind, I think Bows have much more room to play better in the second half. They're relying a lot on corners and I think set pieces as well, and that was just anything took away from it. But some of the grounds around the league are brilliant. Richmond is my favourite. I know I am a bit biased, but just because you don't see a ground like that anymore, where you have to literally go through a group of houses, and it's if you go down to the Canuck side, you're literally on a river as well at the same time. It is just the character of a stadium like that.
Yeah, it's brilliant, because actually I did commentary on the North Shopping match there recently in Europe, and it was a great atmosphere. A lot of Swedes came over for the game, and it was just, the place was rocking. And Richmond Park is great like that, especially when you get a good travelling set of supporters down there as well. But look, moving on, that loss aside, Bohemians still in the hunt for Europe, because Waterford did them a solid as well that night, ending a 3-game losing streak with a home draw against Derry City. That game ended 1-1 down at the RSE. The Candy Stripes taking an early lead in the first half through Junior, but Michael O'Connor equalised before the break. So Derry now 2 points behind Bohemians in the chase for Europe. We'll move on to Waterford in a moment. I'm wondering, lads, will that European chase go right to the wire to the last game of the season?
Well, I hope it does, because Dundalk are going to win the league and Rovers are going to finish second unless either team has an absolute disaster. UCD are likely to finish bottom, and the only two you're looking at is who's going to get third and fourth, and are Hearts going to catch Cork or Waterford. I think they're the ones. So if Bows run away with it and the team in fourth run away with it, you've not got anything to play for Pats, or even for, I know Sligo probably won't get there, but for Pats to be able to keep that alive, and they have to play those teams again, you're going, when Pats play Bows, for example, that's a 6-pointer.
Yeah, well, and next up actually Derry play Bows, and Bows play Waterford first, but then they meet Derry after Derry. And the thing as well, crucially, is if Shamrock Rovers or Dundalk win the FAI Cup, then that brings fourth place into play then as well, Enda.
Yeah, well, just on Derry, like, they were a bit unlucky against Waterford. They probably deserved to win it over the course of the 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And that might play into it going forward, because they have been in these games where they have a lot of good players, and it's something that Derry have struggled with in the last couple of years especially, is they have a lot of good players, a lot of good ball players, but when it comes to grinding out results, they've really failed in that aspect, and that could be the downfall of them this year.
It's the killer instinct. I was just looking there, 11 draws this season. They've the most draws in the league alongside Sligo Rovers, and that's I think Bohemians run 6 draws this season. So it's, even though there's only 2 points between them, it's the draws I think are the big killer there for Derry City. I
think you're really looking at that Derry Bows game in a couple of weeks' time. Like that's probably going to decide it, because I know last season is last season and you can't really look too much into it, but if you look at the way Bows finished really strong and then kind of plateaued in the last couple of games. Yeah. And you'd hope that they're not going to do that again, and they can't really afford to do it with Derry so hot in their tails. So it's, for me, it has to come down to that game between the two. Whoever wins that gets Europe.
And as Jamie mentioned there as well, Pats and Bows, that's turned into a European 6-pointer as well, Jake. Stephen O'Donnell announced as the new Pats manager during the week. There's a lot of pressure on him now to try and get that fourth place.
Yeah, no, it's very much alive. Like, I think top 4 will get you Europe now this season. Like, I wouldn't look outside. I know Pats are out of the cup, so like it is going to be the top 4 that win the cup, I think. So if you finish up there, you are going to get Europe. So like, Pats are really a game behind now, and they're 4 points behind Derry, and Pats go up to Derry now 11th of October as well. So like, there's a couple of 6-pointers coming up really. Yeah. And 6-7 games left for every team. Like, the season is very much alive for like the 3 clubs there now to get Europe. Yeah,
and Pats owe Bows a bit of revenge as well from Dalymount the last time. And I was actually at the last away game Bows played there. It was a draw, not a great match, but a really tense, hard-fought game, and I'd expect the same when Bows goes to Richmond Park.
I'll be interested as well. You mentioned Stephen O'Donnell. Like, we really don't know what to expect now from him. Like, he's never really managed before. He actually managed Dundalk IT, I think, was his only experience. I saw them played Trinity a few years ago, back when I was a student reporter, and they got hammered by Trinity 5-1. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Stephen O'Donnell now. It'll be interesting.
I've seen him at Dalymount. Like nearly every home game this season, he's there watching the match. So he does still get around to match. Obviously working with Dundalk, doing scouting.
He's a winner as well. Like,
I think he's going to do a brilliant job. He was in with us just on the cusp of his retirement. I think it might have been the night that he retired from Dundalk. Yeah. And he was moving into his new role. And he was speaking about the way that he views the game, the way that he wants to play. Which he already had, well, it's the same way as he played with Dundalk, really. Yeah. He wants to play the right way, but he's going to bring, I think, that edge that St. Pat's need. Like, almost like Derry, they're missing something in the midfield, that little bit of bite, that one guy that's going to put in those hard tackles and, just lift the team when they're not playing well and just grind out these performances. They've a lot of good ball players in midfield, probably the best in the league if you look at pure technical ability. Yeah. But I think Stephen O'Donnell is going to come in and he's going to create a mindset within them that's going to really bring this team together.
They've got some really good midfield players there, Chris Forrester and the likes.
Like if you look, if you look at the ball playing ability of that midfield, they've some of the best ball players in the league. Yeah, it's just whether or not they can cement it. Like the likes of Chris Shields is exactly what that St. Pat's team are missing. Just somebody who's going to get those last ditch tackles in. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, that brings us on nicely to the Munster teams. I did mention Waterford getting that draw against Derry City 1-1. They then I should say backed it up on Monday night, getting a 2-1 win at the RSC.
at Turner's Cross against Cork City. And Cork City, of course, that was a back-to-back defeat for them because they lost 4-2 to Sligo Rovers on Friday night. So just on the Friday night game first, it was, I should say, I'll tell you what, we'll come on to Cork next. Waterford first. Alan Reynolds basically saying that inspired by that point they won against Derry City, went on to win that Munster Derby at Turner's Cross. Now, Waterford, I suppose, looking to stave off relegation. I think they should just have enough, Jamie, at this stage, shouldn't they, Waterford?
Yeah, it was an important win for Waterford, though, because they were 1-0 down going into the last 9 minutes, and had Cork won the game, it would be Waterford who are the next team to Finn Harps. Waterford up to 31 points now, which is 8 ahead of Finn Harps, with Finn Harps have a game in hand, but Waterford have 7 games left, 6 games left, should I say?
Yeah.
So you can see Harps getting an 8-point swing across those games. But had they lost a match, they're a little bit closer. And now they're mid-table, and of course the budget's been cut, and they've lost players in the window because of the thing that happened in Europe. So for Alan Reynolds, I think 6th or 7th, given what's happened this season, is an okay finish. And I'll be fascinated to see in the off-season what happens with Lee Power, the owner. Is he going to give a budget at all? Is he going to pull out the club? Because, of course, they won the first division. They made Europe last season through the Premier, and now they're struggling towards the bottom, mainly because of finances. But that was a big win over Cork.
Yeah,
really
like the guy who actually scored the winner, Walter Figueroa, I saw him playing for Waterford against Shamrock Rovers, signed till the end of the season from, he was a former Chelsea man actually, looks really good. He could be the spark for them to get the goals they need to make sure they don't get sucked into that relegation battle. And because Waterford are a club, I think, Enda, if they go down, it could be, they could be there for years.
Yeah, well, like Jimmy said, they've come up from the first division and they've gotten Europe, but that was a lot of that was down to the budget. If we're being honest, they had a bigger budget than anyone else in the first division that year, and they had a bigger budget than a lot of the Finn Harpses, the Droghedas last year in the League of Ireland or in the Premier Division. So I think we can't underestimate the impact that European decision had on Waterford this year, because not only does that relinquish any budget that you had planned for, it also damages morale. Like imagine you were part of that Waterford setup last year. You came up to the Premier Division, and you won your right to play in Europe.
Yeah. And
because of some background issue in the club, you don't get to play that. How many Irish players or Irish-based players dream of playing in Europe? That's the biggest stage they'll ever play on, and that's just taken away from you because of nothing that you've done. Yeah. It was just a decision from...
I think apart from the football as well, the players would have been due money.
Exactly.
European budgets. And I know Dundalk have done so well in recent years, but Dundalk players have bought houses and paid deposits for houses on European bonuses. Now, I know Waterford weren't going to get through 3 rounds or make the group stages, but the players would have still been due money, the club would have been due money, the manager would have been due money, the owner, everybody.
Plus, it gives them the chance to play on the biggest stage where they can... I know we always want players to stay in the League of Ireland, but they can show what they can do on a bigger stage to different clubs. Look at the likes of who do you come from Shamrock Rovers, Dan Carr from Shamrock Rovers got an opportunity to play in Europe, and now he's moved on. Whether it's a good move or not, we don't know. Yeah. But it gives them the opportunity for clubs to see them.
Definitely. Well, look, we'll move on from Waterford and just looking at Cork City now as well before we get into First Division stuff. And of course, the champions we'll have to mention before the end of this. But look, Cork City, they're in all sorts of trouble now. They've obviously got that defeat to Sligo Rovers, then lost to Waterford. Neil Fenn coming in there from Longford Town. He's gone from having a team which were pushing for promotion to the Premier Division from the first, and now he's trying to fight off relegation with Cork City. It's an incredible turnaround. He's got a big job in his hands now.
Yeah, and it would be very interesting to see if Cork were to finish 9th, which I don't think they will, but if they were, it could be Longford they play in the playoff.
Well, this is the thing everybody's talking about, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm not sure if people heard Neil Fenn's quotes after the Monday game where he did his press conference, and they, one of the journalists asked him, what positives can you take? And he went, none. I'm sick of talking about the positives. I want to talk about the negatives. Our defending's disgraceful. We've conceded 6 goals in 2 games. We defend like a schoolboy team. I can't teach the players to mark people in the box. And there was a photo of him walking off the pitch in front of the shed the other day where he looked as if he was a manager who'd been there for 4 years and the results weren't going well, and it's only his second game. Yeah. So I just think he needs to just realise it's not his squad. Yes, we spoke last week on this, the 2 teams they played, Sligo and Waterford, you will be suggesting they will be looking to pick up points against them. They haven't. Their next game this week is against Dundalk.
Dundalk away.
So he just needs to, I think, try and get the most from this group until the winter, the end of the season. Lots of players are out of contract. He decides who he keeps and who he doesn't keep. Him and Stephen O'Donnell at Pats. Then he builds his own team, and then he can have a proper look at things. But 2 games in, I wouldn't. If I was him, I wouldn't be panicking too much about performances because he's trying to change how they play.
I saw those. I saw those Neil Fenn comments. It's really interesting to see a manager sit down and actually have a press conference after a domestic game. Like, it's something you really don't see in the League of Ireland because I suppose most of the media aren't there after a game. He is the regional Cork radio stations, I think it was, but he was really interesting to listen to. Like, he wasn't holding back at all, like, as you said, like the positives comment, but then he was asked up, like, do you think this drags you into relegation battle? And he goes, of course, like, straight off the bat. And he's saying, like, he doesn't know why Cork are playing like this or why they are where they are. Like, he was saying, I'm not sure if they're just not good enough, they're not fit enough, or they're just low on confidence. So, like, he's really there to give them a bit of a kick up the arse, it sounds, with those comments.
Yeah, the thing is, they have got quality players there. He can, a good coach will be able to get some results out of them. They do have, I'm just looking at their fixture list, it's tricky enough. They've got Dundalk away. Then they got Finn Harps at home. I know it's a home game, but Finn Harps, Ollie Horgan, when he's under pressure with teams, he can start pulling out results. Then they have to go away to Derry. Then it's away to Bows. Like, that's a really tough few weeks ahead for them. We'll come on to the Dundalk away game towards the end. Let's move on from Cork. I want to talk about UCD Dundalk briefly before we get into First Division. Enda, Cleary brace, 1 from Hoare, 1 from Duffy, 1 from Kelly. And then, of course, Dundalk go over to Sligo Rovers then on the Monday, beat them 2-0. Dane Massey and Andy Boyle striking in either half. They're just unstoppable at the moment. Are they going to be champions?
Oh, well, I think they were, as soon as they got ahead of Shamrock Rovers in the table, I think it was written that they were going to be champions. But again, it was the same old story for UCD, and it just goes to show you, like, I'm not sure what UCD stood to gain from sacking Collie O'Neill or from losing Collie O'Neill, however it happened, because all 5 of those goals, I rewatched it there yesterday, all 5 came from, 3 of them came from the exact same corner, a corner to the front post, and nobody was marking. And the 4th came from a long cross from almost the halfway line, again, nobody marking. And it was just, and then the Michael Duffy goal was just Michael Duffy being the quality player that he is. And Michael Duffy, I was just looking now, he has 11 goals this year now from a wing position. Like, again, he's shown that he's one of the best players in the league. And when you've got these players, what chance do the likes of UCD have, really? And Georgie Kelly. Georgie Kelly's their substitute striker. And he has 7 goals from 15 appearances off the bench. That doesn't include starts.
It's
like, he would get into any League of Ireland team.
Brilliant season. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about Sligo in a bit more detail over the next couple of weeks, but I think they're kind of chugging towards a mid-table finish at this stage. Liam Buckley, I suppose, his first season, he'll be hoping maybe to get some more players in next season, and he is definitely still, I think that's a team that's still in the works and that can be improved under Liam Buckley. Look, First Division lads, wow. What a dramatic finish we're going to have here. Shelbourne 0, Bray 0 at Tolka Park. So that's 5 points dropped from a possible 9 from the last 3 matches for Ian Morris's Reds. It's not the best time to be dropping points when you've had such a brilliant season up till now.
No, absolutely not. And their next game after the FAI Cup is away to Drogheda, who are 3 points behind them and whose goal difference is better. So that is... I would suggest
Drogheda have won in all competitions 12 of their last 16 matches. Chris Lyons has scored 5 goals in his last 3 games. Drogheda they're in the right form at the right time.
See, if we look at the First Division over the last probably 3 years, you had Limerick up under Martin Russell by a canter. You had Waterford up under Alan Reynolds. You had UCD won it last year by, I can't remember, but points that last 3 games of the season they weren't in doubt really. This is the first time in the First Division in years that there's going to be 2 teams with 2 games left that can actually win the league. And if Drogheda win that match on Friday week, which I think they have a sneaky chance to, more than a sneaky chance.
Absolutely.
They're level on points, their goal difference is better, and they go to the final late of the season. Drogheda play Bray and Shells play Limerick, and that's the last night where the managers are in the dugout going, what's the score on the other ground? Do we need to draw? Do we need to win? And that would be brilliant. But at Shells, if they draw or win, they're up. But it's just fascinating and it's great, and I'm hoping to be at that game in Drogheda in 2 weeks' time or 10 days' time, because it's going to be absolutely brilliant. Tim
Clancy's done a brilliant job with the Drogs. He's just been... It's been fantastic.
Well, Drogheda will have learned from last year's mistake as well, because we're talking about dropping points at this time of the season. Finn Harps were picking up mad results at this time of the season last year. I think they won the last 11 games on the trot or something last season to get into that playoff spot ahead of Drogheda. So Drogheda will have learned from that, and they'll be wanting to tighten up. So if they get a result against Shelbourne, that's going to be massive for them.
They showed in the first half against Rovers in that cup match that they can defend, they can keep teams out. You know, I think that was crucial. And Jake as well, like looking at Shells, they spent a lot of money pre-season. They brought in some big players like Lorcan Fitzgerald, Conan Byrne. At the back, of course, Luke Byrne has been brilliant this season. Like, there's a lot of pressure on Ian Morris, such a young, inexperienced manager. He has to get them up.
He is an inexperienced manager to say, but like a lot of those players they brought in are experienced. Like they're Premier Division players who've been at the top end of their clubs, and Conan Byrne as well. Like he's league winner, he's won the cup, he's won everything with St. Pat's. Like I would sort of trust those players now to hold out to the end of the season. Yeah.
You think they're going to, and I suppose Longford had to be in the conversation here as well, because obviously losing Neil Fenn wasn't ideal, but they get a 2-0 win at Wexford at the weekend. Drogheda of course beat Athlone Town 2-0, but are Longford out of it? Can they still maybe have a say in this?
Well, they definitely can have a say in it by just putting pressure on Drogheda and Shelburne. So like I think their chances of going forward and going up to the Premier Division are probably gone at this stage of the season, but
yeah, but they're 6 points behind with 2 left, so they would need to win both games and they would need the other 2 to lose both, which is probably unlikely to happen. But I think if you look at Longford, that win at the weekend, albeit against Wexford, but I wasn't at the Bows game in Daly, I'm not sure if any of the lads were, but apparently they were very, very good in that FAI Cup game that they lost on penalties against Bows under Dara Doyle.
I was there.
And they were very good. So there you go. And they'll play, it looks like they will play Cabinteely in the first set of playoffs unless they can overjump Drogheda. And you'd fancy Longford to probably beat Cabinteely over 2 legs, and then they play Drogheda, and then you're looking at probably playing Finn Harps. I think Finn Harps will win. I think the team that finishes 9th in the Premier will beat the first division team anyway.
Well, you think that, Jamie, but it's also the team coming up from the first division have momentum with them. That's a big thing. It was like last year when Finn Harps came up and beat Limerick. Like, you know, if you got that momentum, it's key.
I just feel like Finn Harps are set up as a team to win a playoff. I even when UCD were 6 points ahead of them in the league with a couple of games in hand, I always fancied Finn Harps more than I would have fancied UCD in that playoff, just because of the way they're set up. Are Longford going to fancy coming to Finn Park in the first leg to get a result? I don't think they are. So I think I would agree with Jamie that whoever finishes second, they're going to struggle against Finn Harps in that playoff.
Enda speaking like a true Donegal man there. Let's move on to this week's fixtures, lads. Of course, it's going to be dominated by FAI Cup, as long as your team's not playing in the Tunnocks Wafer Caramel Challenge Cup,
which the Bows are. Saturday, isn't it?
We'll leave that one aside. Friday night, Galway against Shamrock Rovers. Michael D. Higgins scouting for Galway United. I wonder if he gave any tips to the Galway manager Alan Murphy against Shamrock Rovers. It's going to be a green and white win, isn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, it is. I actually, as I was walking out of the stadium last night after the women's national game, Michael D. Higgins was coming out of the bathroom with his security guards, and I was walking around to do the mix zone with the Irish players, and the security guards like proper dived. They didn't dive, but they were like, hello, as if I was going to jump on him, like. And you're walking through Tallaght Stadium going, there's Michael D. Higgins literally walking out of the toilet, like. He just goes, he was at Tallaght the other night for the Bows game, wasn't he? He was at the Dubs game at the weekend, and he'd be there in Galway, and he has been given the reports. But
what a life to lead. I must put myself forward for president next time.
Rovers to win that game, though.
Rovers to win. Do you think Galway have any chance, Enda?
You always have a chance in the cup. That's a cliche.
They've won their last 3 on the trot, so like
they're going pretty well this year. I know they're not really in the chance of promotion from the first division, but you can always pull off these shock results. But at the same time, this is something the Shamrock Rovers are going to want to win. They know they're not going to win the league at this stage, so they'll probably put all their eggs in this basket and try to go all out and win.
Hell bent on winning this trophy, I think. Shamrock Rovers 34 years, and they're the record FAI Cup winners. The good thing for Galway, I suppose, as well, looking ahead to next season, the Comer brothers, who are the big businessmen out that way, seem to be ready to invest, and they're going to build a new training facility so they don't have to keep borrowing from Salt Hill, Devon all the time. So look, things looking good for Galway. I do think they're going to lose this one though against Shamrock Rovers. Saturday night then, Sligo Rovers host UCD. You'd have to favour the bit of red, I think, Jake, in this one. Yeah, a lot of the cup fixtures actually in this round look very straightforward on paper anyway. Like UCD, like the new manager in there, like he's yet to get a result. Maybe he wants the cup run, I don't know.
He did beat Pats in the last round of the cup.
Yeah. Bucca likes the cup though, Liam Buckley. He does. He, of course, won the Saints' first one in what was it, 60 odd years that time, a few years back. So look, I think Sligo Rovers, you'd have to really favour in that one. And then Waterford Dundalk
that's on Monday night, isn't it?
Monday night,
It's a terrible night for a cup game in Waterford. The crowd will be poor, I would suggest, in that one, unfortunately.
The crowd was very poor in Waterford last Monday. just
the Monday night
past
games
it.
just don't help, and especially the RSC is such a good little ground as well. When you do get a decent crowd, but will the home fans have anything to cheer about? Do you think there, or Dundalk shoe-ins here to go through to the next round?
I think Dundalk have their eye on the treble this year.
Yeah,
they want to do it. It hasn't been done since Derry City did it.
Yeah,
and they've Derry in the EA Sports Cup as well.
Yeah.
So, there's a bit of a storyline there. Can they do that?
yeah. There's been a bit of treble talk from some of the Dundalk players and all. I think that's good enough motivation for any opposition team playing them.
You'd think that, but see, the thing is, this is massive for Vinnie Perth. If he comes in replacing Stephen Kenny, especially all the criticism that they got at the start of the season by like who's in charge. Vinnie Perth doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the pro license yet. He can't take charge. All this nonsense chat. If he comes in and wins the treble, he immediately Stephen Kenny's reign is forgotten about it, and it's the Vinnie Perth reign now.
That's fair enough. I don't need to be forgotten about, but
It won't be forgotten.
They can box
but
it off.
They can put it in the background. You can
Steve-o,
finally stop asking him about Stephen Kenny.
Why are Dundalk playing Cork in the league on Friday
Well,
and the cup match on Monday? I don't understand why they wouldn't be reversed.
This is the the never-ending conundrum that is the FAI fixture list. That should be something that's dealt with next season. Look, just as we wrap up here for this week's show, Dundalk versus Cork City, that fixture at home for Dundalk, I think again is going to be another win for the Lily Whites and another step towards winning that league title again.
Yeah, it's a shame that Cork Dundalk doesn't have what it had in the previous years, because we haven't really spoken about it, and I think Dundalk, with an eye on the cup on Monday, may not even play their strongest team against Cork and will probably still win the match, and this is their game in hand, and they'll go 10 clear if they win it, and then the league will definitely be over. And we mentioned Neil Fenn earlier on, he's going to Dundalk to try and pick up his first points with Cork, but it's just a shame that this isn't the big Cork-Dundalk game that it has been. But I think Dundalk will win it, and then they bounce into the cup on Monday night as well.
And then let's pit friend against friend here, Jamie. Finn Harps against St Patrick's Athletic. It's Enda versus Jake. Who's going to do this one, lads? It's up in Ballybuffet. Nobody likes going to Ballybuffet, as they say.
And it was flooded last week.
And I said last week, I like going to Ballybuffet.
I was negative last week. I'm going to be positive now first, even though we don't know what to expect. We don't know how they're going to play. I'd hope they play a Dundalk style of passing football up there, but obviously Finn Park's going to be a tough place to try and play that type of football.
Dig already there, Jamie.
I will.
Well, hopefully the pitch is actually playable this time. Last Friday night, St Pat's announced it on their Twitter about 4 hours before Finn Harps said anything about it. So
summer football,
I don't know if you can call that mind games or not. Pitch unplayable.
Yeah. Fans on the train on the way up with a bag of cans apparently already.
Look, Ballybuffet's not the worst place to go out anyway. It's
that's true.
You have to go, Steve. We'll do a podcast from there.
I think.
It's a hard match to call, though. I actually wouldn't.
Well, we all know how Finn Harps are going to play at home. They're going to play man behind the ball, and especially, I think I read that Keelan McAleer has left the club. Due to college commitments. So that's like he's a star player for Finn Harps. That's a massive loss for them. He's one of the main threats they have going forward. So you're actually probably looking at looking for a header from a corner or something like that there to try win it for.
I think a draw could be a possible outcome here. What are we thinking? Or
I would say go low goals if you're a betting man. Maybe 1-0, 2-0. I would go with Pats to nick one.
Well, I've seen the Pats the last few years. Like when the season's coming to an end, a lot of players are playing for contracts, and this is when they start to perform this time of season. So
that's true. Very true. Yeah.
See what happens.
Well, nice note to finish on. Well, listen, thanks, folks, for listening to our second edition of the LOI Score podcast on OTB. Stephen Doyle here signing off, and we got some feedback from First Division fans last week. We'd like to think that you'd know now that we did listen to your calls for more First Division, which we will try and keep up for the next few weeks. So listen, thanks for listening. We'll be back to you next week. Cheers. Bye bye.